PSE has been putting out updates, and PSE has been very apologetic. I realize they're not the only energy company, but certainly they had quite a few outages along the east side. They've been putting out updates. We're so sorry. We know this is really frustrating for folks. They said 99% of their customers who had their power knocked out are back online. And they said the remaining few should get their power back this afternoon, or I think their phrase was like, or somewhere close to that. I was like, essentially the gist of it. They said that they, ran into a lot of issues in hard to reach areas, a lot of damage, a lot of trees down, whatever it is. But I understand, there's being understanding. And I think most people are understanding. Like, a tree came down, they're not out there twiddling their thumbs. They're trying to get us back online. But also the response has simply fallen short, both from the energy companies and from the government. For a lot of undivided viewers and listeners, certainly, we got this email from Jessica Larson, who's an undivided viewer, said, "Why is this not bigger news? What happens next storm? We have a young family and we are suffering. Schools have been closed, even a last-minute closure yesterday, and this is in the Issaquah School District. My son has gone 2 days in 2 weeks. Schools are open today, but limited heat. So we were told to, they were told to have their son dress in layers." Ah, yes, a week after the bomb cyclone. Their son has to go to school dressed in layers. 7 whole days without power, or a reliable estimate, is a joke. And then offering some tea or coffee is a waste. How about firewood? How about meals? How about a discount on our PSE bill for the fridge and freezer items we had to throw away? And I agree with that sentiment, because it's like, it's really nice to say, hey, we have warming areas, come on in, get a hot cup of coffee. Like, that's a really nice gesture. But 7 days without power, hot cup of coffee just ain't doing it at that point. When you've thrown away everything in your fridge, when you've thrown away everything in your freezer, when it's cold in your house, when you have to send your child to school bundled up because there's not reliable heat at the school and power's been out for 7 days. Like, that is a failure, an absolute failure. And offering tea or coffee in a warm place just isn't enough at that juncture. And I agree with Jessica about the fact that I don't believe the media is as focused on the failures that led to this as they should be. Because Jessica, she sent a long email. But, it's also bringing up this whole frustration over this push toward electrification. And Nicole, if we can jump ahead to this is insane. A customer who was out, PSE customer, out without power for 5 days. Think about that, okay? You're without power for 5 days. Wrap your mind around that. And you get this email from Puget Sound Energy saying you can get a $50 credit to learn about going all electric. It's titled, "The Advantages of Electrifying." Are you interested in saving energy and switching to an all-electric lifestyle but don't know where to start? Puget Sound Energy is here to help. It says you sign up for a free 60-minute appointment and you get a $50 gift card if you just listen to their pitch for you to go all electric. I can't. Jesse Warner, an undivided viewer, sent us that, forwarded us that email from PSE, said, we just got power back yesterday, and boy, do we feel like that email was poorly timed. We lost hundreds of dollars from food spoiling, and if we didn't have our gas stove and fireplace, we would have had to get an Airbnb somewhere. And then they get an email offering them $50 to explore the virtues of electrification. I'm sorry, but that also is a failure. Not understanding and not understanding the moment, and someone at PSE saying, hey, that electrification deal, maybe we don't send that email out this week. Maybe we still have customers who are without power. Some just got their power back after 5 days. Maybe we don't send them an email offering them $50 if we can come talk to them about how great it is to electrify your home. After a week where we just had nearly 1 million people whose electricity was knocked out. It just shows you a level of incompetence and really not thinking about what families, and not truly understanding maybe what families were actually going through in the moment. And then you have Governor Jay Inslee. Oh my God, Governor Jay Inslee. So we've been talking about on the show the state's failed response, how they didn't declare a state of emergency. We could have used FEMA. I mean, look at all the disasters that FEMA comes in for, natural disasters that are they're serious, right? But it's sort of a one-time occurrence and then it's mostly done. I'm just going to give an example. I'm not trying to compare it to the electrical outage, but the Oso landslide, like FEMA, everyone, Governor Inslee on the ground, and people died. It was a horrible, horrible ordeal. But again, why, when you have almost 1 million people without power, is it not, and it's an ongoing like 7-day ordeal? I'm not comparing it to the loss of life of the Oso landslide, but you were able to activate all levels of government very quickly in something you had no notice for. Like, nobody was expecting that landslide. It happened. And I remember being very complimentary of the government's response to it at the time, where it's like, holy smokes, they were on the ground almost instantly. The feds came in. I don't know how, their response was to impacted families, but I know they were there. I know they showed up. I know they held press conferences. So here you have an ordeal where, you had 2 people who died. It wasn't the loss of life you saw at Oso, but it was something that we could have planned for. We knew the bomb cyclone was coming for days. It wasn't a surprise. So why not have that same level of readiness? You can get people like that in a natural disaster that's unexpected, but still, the governor didn't even put out a statement for 2 days. 2 days. And then he just came out, this from Fox 13. Inslee issues a statement. Oh, great. Thank you. But he skips trip to storm-ravaged Washington communities like Miramont, which is still one of the big areas without power right now. Says as Western Washington communities grapple with the devastating aftermath of Tuesday's bomb cyclone, Governor Jay Inslee has not visited impacted areas and currently has no plans to do so. When asked by Fox 13 why the governor has yet to tour storm-ravaged areas, a spokesperson said, quote, right now, we don't want to get in the way of the recovery work being done, so no plans yet. When has that ever stopped you before? When has that ever stopped a visit from the governor for a natural disaster area? When did that stop him from bringing maggot-infested apples into an area that was hit by wildfires? He could have brought the people without power some spoiled milk. really kept up with the tradition. It's just an excuse. He's on Bainbridge Island. I'm sure he's nice and cozy, or in the governor's mansion, nice and cozy. Toasting his feet or something on a gas fireplace, doing just fine. So then we had reached out to the governor's office because, look, I get it that there is a protocol, right? Protocol. It's just this word this week. We talked about that yesterday with the King County Regional Homelessness Authority, how they didn't activate their emergency shelter protocol because their protocol did not allow for them to activate that plan if there were just high winds. They activate it in snow or really low temperatures or really high temperatures, but the protocol said nothing about wind, so they just left homeless people out in their tents to die. So it's the same situation here where, they didn't declare a state of emergency and the governor's office is saying, well, that's protocol that the local entities have to ask us for help. We're not going to proactively help them. Protocol. So they've got to, come to us for help. It's like, really? Do they though? Do they? Is any city or county going to be mad that's been without power for 7 days, going to be upset that the governor's office sent them some extra helping hands? Is that how dysfunctional the government bureaucracy is? So it reached out to the governor's office, got a response from his staff saying there's an established structure for state and local coordination during emergency response. Our office and the State Emergency Operations Center within our military department monitor and connect with local governments so we can respond to requests for help. Local governments all have an emergency management team that is also familiar with this process. And that's fine, but how jargony does that sound? How jargony does that sound? Is like, hey, there's I can think of 1 million things off the top of my head that the governor would have the power, even if it's not something official, to do like that. Hey, what happened during the, was it during one of the big storms or was it during COVID or something where we had National Guardsmen members who were manning food banks? Right? It was like they were doing, during COVID, they did 1 million jobs. During COVID, the National Guard filled 1 million different roles. And they have at times staffed food banks, for instance. So what would stop, genuinely, them from activating the National Guard to go out into some of these communities, go door to door, checking on people? Like literally, I'm just saying, for the governor, pick up the phone. Hey, can we get the National Guard? You know, you've got Miramont. It's been without power for 7 days now. Can you go out there, send the guard door to door, just make sure everyone's okay? God forbid you have an elderly person who's out there or something who is just freezing to death in their home. See if they need food. We can bring some sort of supplies. We can bring some gas for generators, whatever it is. Let's just go in there, even if they turn us away, and ask if they need help. What is stopping the governor's office from doing that? There's no protocol that's stopping them from doing that.